If you insert that bottle and create a vacuum,
shit on the ground and hope it doesn't break your dick. You know what I mean?
I was thinking the other way. If you insert that bottle and you create a vacuum, it's really difficult to get out.
Oh, you think he sat on that thing? No,
Yeah.
I wouldn't do that. You gotta be careful with that. Pull out some intestines and
Prolapsed asshole.
Yeah.
Welcome back.
Oh,
Good to
yeah.
see you. Glad you're here.
Good old prolapse. How you doing?
The old Lapsy. It's like the Lapras from Pokemon, right?
I'm gonna have a fun time editing tonight, aren't I?
Clink, clank, clink, clink, clank. There we go. Hello and welcome to Strange Happy Hour. I, of course, am one of your hosts, Brent the Jesse Metcalf, along to my left.
The dispatcher, Mark Plover.
And on the right.
John Pettit.
I was ready for that one.
We, of course, come to you each and every week to talk to you about the really cool tech news as well as the very interesting, very nerdy video game news out there. However, we don't have time to discuss everything that happens because some weeks like this past week are crazy jam-packed. We cannot talk about the fact that 2K responds to backlash about mandatory ads in games. They suck. Games cost $60. Why are you putting ads in games? It's dumb. We cannot talk about Darkest Dungeon 2 being announced as an Epic Store early access exclusive in 2021. And we also can't talk about how Jared Leto's Joker will be in Zack Snyder. Let me fix that. How dare I get my favorite comic writer wrong with the director of Justice League, Zack Snyder. But we do have time to talk about what we like to call on this very show each and every week as we gather together under this umbrella that we call Strange Gaming in the bar ourselves in our quarantine bunkers. It's like a bar. It's made of quarantine bunkers. They all come together eventually. It's no big deal.
Weird.
What we like to call on this show.
The important
shit. There we go. And first off, we're talking about McDonald's ice cream machines because you know it's broken. Every time you go, you want a McFlurry. They don't have it.
Lipitor.
Dispatcher, what's happening?
You could almost say that the machines are McBroken. Which is literally the name of the app that somebody developed to know whether the machines are broken at your location.
I love it.
Fun fact, if you go to McBroken.com, it literally loads a map that it, I guess, guesses your location based on your IP address, and will automatically pull up green and red dots across the map to tell you whether or not the ice cream machines are working at those locations. Of course, the McDonald's ice cream machine, or machines being broken is sort of a staple meme of McDonald's. What was it?
The fast food industry.
That was because that was the start of the Shaq
Frosty War.
The Shaq meme too.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, I want an ice cream machine broken. Understandable. Have a nice day. Like that whole. That was sort of the start of that meme. Well, fun fact: the McDonald's API for the mobile application does not let you add a McFlurry or an ice cream based product to your cart if the ice cream machines don't work at that particular location. So someone had identified this. Dude's name, but someone had found a way to identify this and try to add the McFlurries and the ice creams to the cart in that for each location. Literally, each location every 30 minutes gets updated across the country. Because the headline here is that the bot that he built technically adds. It says orders, but it means
Rashik
adds.
Zahid.
What's that?
His name is Rashik Zahid.
There you go.
Oh, thank you.
I
honestly thought you said she or he. And
that's no. I thought he said the same thing. But the headline here anyway is technically the bot adds $18,752 worth of McSundays or ice cream products for McDonald's every 30 minutes to a cart.
That's amazing.
And the idea is
so amazing.
So initially, apparently, he had done this to work. What was it? It was every couple of minutes initially. Like it was a couple of minutes, but McDonald's API had actually identified it as a bot at that point and had blocked him. So he realized that 30 minutes seems to satisfy their bot requirement. And he doesn't actually have to order, these McFlurries to really know, or these McSundays to really know whether or not that's actually going to work. So I find this kind of interesting that using McDonald's own information, their own system, sort of against them or for them, even in this sense, it's really comes together.
Brilliant.
Yeah. Well, it's like finding a way to use an API that's built into a software infrastructure that you don't have access to.
Yep.
Like, all right, let's figure out how I can do this. I'm just going to use your own app. I love it. And if you go to the app, it actually tells you on the side, like the current percentage broken across all McDonald's in the United States, and then ranks the cities. Well, so Philadelphia, you fuck it up big, 15.62% right now, whereas Seattle, 0%. You people in Seattle are living the dream right now.
Mm-hmm. It's hard to believe that 8% of ice cream machines in McDonald's are broken across the country.
Correct.
As a person who works on machines, 8%. I'm not surprised at all.
Oh my gosh.
Because you have to look at, like, you have to constantly maintenance them, and even if you do baby them, I mean, those machines are constantly running. I know they're commercial grade, but Jesus, man, the wear and tear on those machines.
Oh, 100%.
Well,
I mean,
especially when you take into account most McDonald's are 24-hour locations, right? Like,
and every high person in a 20-mile radius is coming to get a McFlurry at 2 a.m.
Don't you dare talk about us that way, John, okay? We have feelings. And we do like McDonald's, especially for the McFlurries, but the machines are always broken. So we'll have to use his app from now on.
Well, yeah, I'm surprised that McDonald's doesn't just try to use it and say, thanks. We'll use this as like advertisement. This is great.
I think they just never want to admit that a machine's broken.
Yeah, dude.
Well, no,
I can't get the cart. I don't know.
So McDonald's actually has acknowledged that it's kind of a weak point in their chain here. Apparently, that it's definitely something that's gone wrong for them before. What's funny is actually in, I guess, an official but not official kind of fashion. So first off, McDonald's has said nothing about this. Like, they seem to not have any kind of reaction. They don't care, I guess, that somebody's done this. But their company communications and government relations executive, David Tovar, had actually tweeted and said, quote, only a true McDonald's fan would go to these lengths to help help customers get our delicious ice cream. So thanks.
Well, think about it. It does two things for them. They don't get a bad experience going and finding out where it's broken. They go and get the product that they want, and McDonald's makes more money. Why would they want to do anything with it?
Yeah, I mean, if you want ice cream, okay, that means you don't go to one location, you go to the other one, but you still get your ice cream instead of going to one, getting disappointed and frustrated and saying, F it, I'm just going to go home.
Or to a competitor.
Yeah. So this is actually not the first app to do this kind of thing, to try to track specifically the broken nature of these ice cream machines. Raina MacLeod is another developer who had an app to track if the ice cream machines were working, but it was more of a crowdsource information kind of app where you would have to report whether or not the machine was actually working when you showed up, which is fine.
Useful,
except,
but
if the app's not very popular and you are if you're the first person to show up since it's broken, that means you still end up kind of SOL anyway.
Well, in any sort of crowd sharing data usage here, right, where you're having users input data, is always susceptible to some sort of spamming or even like what's the word I'm looking for right now? Tomfoolery. That's the word.
Tomfoolery.
Well, I mean,
I came up with
that kind of reminds me of like a Google Maps thing, for example, because Google Maps crowdsources a lot of their data, to figure out what traffic conditions look like, for example, in locations. So a guy had actually taken a bunch of Android phones, put them in a cart, and would push them down his road, like during particular like peak rush hour times, and it would show a massive traffic jam essentially sitting on his street, so cars wouldn't take it whenever they'd use navigation.
Yeah, I love that.
That was actually an article I'd covered on the podcast at one point.
I remember that. Yeah, so smart.
It's just really interesting to see that kind of stuff. Like people take advantage of that too. But no, you're right. Like that leaves that availability for individuals to come in and be malicious if they really want to. But I think this is a really good use of like modern tech to determine whether or not, especially for something that's I guess so iconic as a McDonald's ice cream machine's broken. Shocker. But
100%. Yeah,
I think this is good use of the API. And if McDonald's doesn't care, and some of their executives are praising it, keep at it. If anything, maybe they can help the guy make it a little bit more legitimate instead of him having to, hack the app to or have to, intercept calls in the app to understand how it works in the first place. They can do it in a more official fashion.
Well, hell, if anything, they could use it as a tool saying, hey,
they could do it themselves.
Dude, you're screwing up. Why it shows according to this app that you haven't had ice cream in like 3 months. What are you doing?
So sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. Go ahead.
No, you're fine.
No, I agree with it. That it's really, you're right. It's great for looking at numbers, right? Which they have access to, but actually having those numbers available publicly makes them kind of like fires under people's feet compared to it's available. But honestly, I think this is more I guess the benefit you could see is McDonald's realizing, okay, in other chains as well, maybe since we have this information already and we already make these calls on our back ends, we do make some public facing versions of this. We can connect these to other apps and leave it available for people to get that information, whether or not they're creating their own apps. You want to tie it into something like DoorDash or anything along those lines where it's a lot easier. They have similar things available, but why not go ahead and just push it all so that way your technology infrastructure is now open to anybody who really wants to make something with it. There's gonna be a lot of people who make dumbass shit, but I promise you're gonna get the advertising you want of it. It's practically free at that point.
Right.
Yep. I would have to imagine how many people claim it's broken, so they don't have to clean it. I bet you most of the issues involving those machines aren't even mechanical. They're probably caused by the employees themselves.
More than likely.
So not through sabotage necessarily, but just mishandling of equipment or not understanding what they're doing.
If you watch the titular film that stars Michael Keaton, the founder, you'll realize that ice cream has been a really big pain point for McDonald's for years. Because when they started franchising out the actual buildings and they used the same schematics for everywhere, so the whole goal is the same setup, everything, and the refrigeration cost was so high because they had to store ice cream to make milkshakes. So they eventually swap it out for these powder shakes that you could just make and they emulsify and stuff, and they're awful. They're nasty. But they swapped them out because they could cut all of their refrigeration down considerably because they only need the refrigerator, not the freezer. And it made them buku bucks for it's like a period of 20 years before they eventually swap back to real ice cream. So this is not a new problem. It's one they've been slowly trying to over time adapt. The problem is there's only so much you can do with it.
Yep.
Yeah.
So very cool. Please let us know what you think about McBroke.com. Check it out yourselves.
McBroken.
You can find it. McBroken. Thank you. You can find it. Honestly, wherever you are in the United States, you should just open it because I think it's hilarious to be able to check that. And I don't even know if it works outside the U.S. I assume so, but it's hard to say. I mean, he's probably only making. He's making the orders in the U.S. locations.
Yeah, it seems to work in pretty much every U.S. state.
There you go.
I was trying to look for Puerto Rico on here to see if I could find that, but it doesn't seem like that works out.
Is there a McDonald's in Puerto Rico? I would assume so, but
there are plenty down in Hawaii, which this also maps out to. So
there you go. Yeah. Who wants a poke bowl when you can have Spam burgers from McDonald's? Anyways, please let us know what you think in the comments, floating directly above Mark's twirling mustache. Boom. Time to move on to our next topic, which is coming from Handsome John himself. And we talking about Twitch. And DMCA. I feel like we talked about this already.
We did. We talked about this while you were gone. I was actually really looking forward to what you thought about what was going on involving with the new music that Twitch was giving that was DCMA free.
I can tell you real quickly.
Yeah, go for it.
I think it's great. What a great way to ensure that they can protect themselves and also give streamers an out. That way when they ban Hammer, they don't have to worry about people getting mad at them.
Yeah, a lot of streamers are saying that they're looking to this as a way of control, but we'll find out later on in the future.
Yeah.
But today we're talking about Twitch's DMCA purge deleted thousands of streamers' VODs. Yeah, Banhammer is right because they didn't even warn them and gave them no chance to even refute the charges. So all these people that had all their stuff that, was basically their legacy on Twitch is just gone.
Mm-hmm.
And not only that, but you don't know they didn't tell you what they deleted. They don't tell you why they deleted it. And then you also had no opportunity to, fight the charges. So unfortunately, Twitch isn't taking any chances anymore. And I think the Digital Millennium Copyright Act is coming back to haunt them big time, and they're just trying to save their ass. What this was. This was dire straits.
This isn't the first time takedowns have happened.
No, no.
I mean, this is the second time I can recall that this being a particularly large issue anyway of Twitch receiving a ton of DMCAs and finally complying with all of them at one time, and suddenly a ton of content getting deleted again. But the notices,
but unfortunately, some of these DMCAs are actually coming from in-game music.
Really?
Yes.
I mean, I guess it's licensed, it's copyrighted. I guess as long
exactly. So you're playing something like Tony Hawk. Well, we all know all that music is licensed, right? Gorilla Radio.
You're so dumb. I hate everything.
He had to do it.
I mean, it's technically in there, so I'll let it happen.
I know. But Twitch sent out to streamers, we recognize that by deleting this content, we are not giving you the option to file a counter notification or seek a retraction from the rights holder. In consideration of this, we have processed these notifications and are issuing you a one-time warning to give you the chance to learn about copyright law and the tools available to manage the content of your channel, which is basically like, figure it out, or you're going to be pissed off for the rest of your life.
Yeah, well, and Twitch seems to run on a permanent 3-strike process or policy.
Yeah,
that seems to be the what's going on. And the issue is that for DMCA takedown notices like this, like at least they're bundling them like all into one of like, hey, we haven't enforced this before, but we just got a ton of notices on this, so we're only going to count this as one strike, as opposed to each one being its own strike, which was the concern last time this happened. Was there was no guidance on this. There was no information on how this was going to be handled. Like a lot of Twitch streamers for a while were like, I don't know what's going to happen. It's like my channel could get deleted tomorrow because I busted the 3-strike policy. And there goes my entire revenue stream. There goes my entire following. I could create a new Twitch channel, but that depends on a ton of you coming over to follow me. Don't get me wrong, like the core people would, but that's still a risk, and that's still a major hit, to you as a content producer or as a content maker, but or an influencer even. But I don't agree with them not having the ability to fight back on this. I think YouTube, for all the flack that they get, has handled this much better. By a long shot, is that it's on a per channel basis and everyone gets to figure it out on their own for themselves. Yeah. If you get marked with a DMCA takedown notice, most times you don't even get hit with DMCA because YouTube's figured it out that it's copyright content before the DMCA even has to be enacted to fight this. So,
and that's some of these people's biggest complaints, is that their solution is just to delete everybody's work in their entire channel. Because they don't have any way to look at the violations ahead of time or have any identification system to say, hey, by the way, you're going to be nicked here. Well, and it's like, it'd be that easy.
Well, and part of this is that if Twitch isn't going to take the steps or hasn't taken the steps up to this point to make it happen, and maybe the DMCA notices have been sitting for a while, or they've been trying to sit on them for maybe a week or something like that, trying to figure it out, or a month, trying to figure out how they're going to even handle it, then they may have run out of time in the first place to even take care of that. They should have gotten ahead of it and taken care of this from the beginning. I mean, YouTube, for example, like Nintendo is one of my favorite examples of this. If Nintendo straight up has a problem with you posting content of Nintendo's games, period. But what they do instead is, instead of just yanking your content right off the rip, they just take a share of the profit of the revenue you make from streaming or producing videos with that content.
I don't even think they take a share of it. I think they take all of it.
No. They can't take all of it.
Channel. Yeah. So it used to be that what they used to do is they used to go to YouTube and say, claiming, hey, that's our property. We get this, whatever. It's now been, okay, we're taking a revenue share of whatever it is, because it's our copyrighted material.
Yeah. They in the beginning, Nintendo did just take down the content. That was something that they did. And they still had some leeway to be able to do that with new games when they get released, so that storylines aren't busted and a bunch of other stuff.
Yeah.
They still will. But I follow a lot of Poketubers, right? Like people who cover Pokemon exclusive to Nintendo, and almost every single one of them has Patreon or some other means to make money because of how stringent Nintendo is about this kind of thing.
Right.
I don't know why that it can't be easier for a company like Twitch, who's owned by Amazon, to be able to find a way to document what's going on and make it easier for your application to be used as a revenue stream for you and other people. Like, I don't.
Well, especially in regards to the like the in-game music. Like for me, it's one thing when you have background music, that's an active choice, right?
Yeah.
But when you're previewing or utilizing a product, I understand that's also technically a choice. But your whole point is like to show the game.
Yeah.
And so if I'm getting knocked for showing the game, which is what this platform is built for, then what the fuck am I doing here?
Yeah.
The only thing you can do is turn. And the reason I brought up Tony Hawk was a big part of that game that gets you in the fields is the music with the game. It's not, I'm trying to steal your music and boost myself up by using your music like Trump does at his rallies without anybody's permission or want thereof. And it's a part of the game that I'm playing and streaming to you. And it seems a little messed up because there was no, you could petition it or fix anything. It's gone. Boom. That's all they got was a notification that it's dropped, and there's no way to document it. There's no way to know what they deleted until you go back and dot all the I's, dash all the T's, and hopefully you didn't miss anything. And it's really frustrating when you have something like Mixer that just failed, that a lot of people were hoping was going to fix a lot of where they were going to
create the competition.
And then now they're running back into the same DMCA issues that they were to begin with. Yeah, now they have music coming down the line, but why is this all the backlog being just thrown in the air like this? Who's throwing Twitch in the fire saying, get this done now? Why isn't this done already?
I think that's just the act itself. I think that's just the Copyright Act itself that sort of puts that pressure on, because the idea is that a DMCA is supposed to be a swift, take it down now kind of motion. And it is sort of left up to arbitration after that point if you want to appeal. The problem is that Twitch probably doesn't have the infrastructure yet to set up a pass-through for that, to know what the individual notices actually look like for that. And how to hand those to the actual streamers themselves. Instead, it's just sort of a mass takedown. Plus, the other thing too is, if Twitch hasn't enforced up to this point, I really don't think that they have the infrastructure or have the manpower and the wherewithal to be able to distribute it to that many people at one time to say, hey, by the way, this specific order number of a DMCA takedown notice has been issued against your channel for this, that, and the other content. If you want to dispute this, then you need to do it yourself through this government organization.
Well, unfortunately, this is just another, nail in the coffin of streamers trying to do something and Twitch being awful at communicating what their intentions are and what they want from their streamers and what they expect. And they're just like, learn what these rules are. They're telling them to learn what the rules are and do it right. And it's like, are you even giving them the tools? Well, it appears, however, once again, they have effectively failed to communicate to their following or their people that are using their stuff, because they are coming out with a system, automated anonymous deletion, that will not be the norm. Instead, DMCA takedowns will be specific and live rather than vague and a part of a backlog that spans to an infinite time period, according to this Kotaku article.
See, this still just furthers my argument that I made before whenever we talked, because we talked about Mixer, a long way back, anyway, about its inception and what it was doing to sort of grow itself as a platform. And Mixer was sort of the golden child there, the prodigy that was supposed to have happened because of the integrations that Microsoft was going to put in place. The problem is that
the
Twitch
new Series X coming out, it made sense.
Twitch is solely perpetual just because of its following. People know what Twitch.tv is. You know what Twitch is off the rip. Most people don't even remember what Justin.tv was beforehand whenever it merged with Twitch. You just know that what Twitch is, and you know it has a bad reputation, but you keep coming back to it because that's what it is, and content creators keep coming back to it because it's got the following, it's got the people on it, it's got the type of discovery that you can really get as a big streamer. Mixer was supposed to have been the sort of solution for that, but because they have better software integrations, they had better policies in place, Microsoft would have done probably a much better job of this, because I guarantee it's not the first time that Microsoft's had to deal with any kind of governmental fights as far as this goes. And don't get me wrong, Amazon should have known something about this from the beginning and done something about it, but to be honest, they probably took the Bezos policy of it's not a problem right now, I'm not going to pay for it.
Well, I mean, at the same time, like, it's not just like the law coming into effect. It's actually the holders of the music, of the people who hold the music rights. There are thousands of notifications from these rights holders, which is why they did all this to begin with. They were just getting slammed and like, you know what? Just take it and go.
Oh, 100%. I mean, that's what I'm saying. Once it reached a certain critical mass, Amazon probably looked at it and said, there is no way that it is worth our time, our money, and our energy to send out emails to each and every one of these individual streamers to let them do their own thing on this. And because we're behind the curve on it, realistically, it's just a matter of, sure, let's throw an algorithm in real quick to see if it matches any of these particular songs that they know that they're claiming that, show up in these videos. And if the algorithm shows us above a certain percentage chance or above a certain percentage match of this hit, we're just going to auto delete it. And that's just
Here's my thing, though. Knowing that they're creating these tools to mitigate these issues for further use, or make it easier to find where the violations are occurring and you could fix that part of your video, why in the hell wouldn't they just say these are not playable? Just literally put a mark on it that says don't play this.
I don't think they care.
Play this.
I think the people who work for Twitch care. I think when you talk about the people who run Twitch, which is Amazon, I don't think they care. Why would they?
I know they don't give a shit about the human soul. They drink the tears from orphans. I mean,
but we like the two of you literally just detailed. There's no alternative, right? No one can go anywhere else. Mixer was that hope to at least create a competition. YouTube gaming is fine. Facebook gaming is nothing. It's just there's nobody who is willing to compete in this stratosphere. So guess what?
Mixer was nothing too. They only held about 3 to 4%.
Correct,
but their feature implementation was looking to be so much better. They had such a promise about them in the way that they were and what they were looking to implement and what they had implemented in just their short lifespan before Facebook came in.
Also, like when we talk about Mixer in general, it's owned by Microsoft. Microsoft has a horse in the game of gaming, right? Yep. Like you would think they would want to get that off the ground. The fact they closed it down still boggles my mind because the integration with everything they could have done with it.
Well, the only thing I can think of is that they must have been literally bleeding millions of dollars a day on this.
I can't. I don't know.
Well, so I mean, I don't know if it was necessarily that they were bleeding money on it necessarily. I mean, they may have. To be fair, they may have. But by the same token, they had also made a massive investment into what was happening, and Facebook just came across with a better offer and said, "Hey, by the way, let us merge your content and your creators and whatnot with Facebook Gaming over here, and we'll take care of all that for you." And Ninja and all those guys who signed exclusive contracts with Mixer said, "Nope, I'm out."
Yeah, I would be too, because I don't trust Facebook. So in the similar way, I wouldn't trust Google. Like these large corporations bring up products and put them down all the time. So in this situation, the hope was, again, Microsoft has the console on the line. They're going to want to push their own integrations, try and make that a thing so that you would go forward with it. And the fact that they gave up, I think a lot of people probably felt betrayed by that.
Well, they felt more betrayed in the way that they did it too, considering it was just sort of a one-day thing of like, hey, by the way, we're closing in 2 weeks.
Correct. Yeah.
What?
The big thing for Twitch is, I mean, I want to pull off the music chosen aside, and I really want to focus on the in-game stuff, because that's the big you to me, at least. Again, like, you get to choose what music goes on behind you while you talk, while you're doing stuff, whatever clips you show, like, you get the time to kind of screen that. But when your goal is to be a streamer, right? Like, we got Propercast on here, Tumbleweed, we've B-Scotch and Dots. We've got plenty of people who literally try to build themselves up because their goal is to make a living off of this. They love it enough, the community that they've created, the people they spend time with. They want this to become their career. And when you don't even provide protections for them in the products they're trying to showcase, it becomes a big fucking problem. Like Sega's really bad about this right now, specifically with the Atlas products. Persona 5 had so many streaming limitations. They just announced Shin Megami Tensei 3, which is a remake of a PS2 game, has so many streaming limitations because they're trying to protect their product, which is their prerogative. I totally understand that. But also on the flip side, these corporations that create these platforms that provide no protections for anybody who's using like these things, not even, again, a warning system, something to say, hey, we want to let you know that you're going to lose X number of dollars because you have the math already. You've got the systems in place to calculate what that revenue is. Because I guarantee you share the math across the board, people will change. It's not hard. They're just being willfully negligent. So that way, at the end of the day, they can say, oh, well, it's not our problem.
Well, not only that, but like the rules seem to be, I mean, the rules are there. People need to learn the rules for, dealing with other people's content. But I still feel like it's just like any other law. Things are confusing. They're convoluted. There's a bunch of if, ands, and then, but possibly if you could do this, then that. And I feel like if Twitch would be responsible enough to say, hey guys, let's make a video of what is and is not accepted. This will cover at least 85% of what you'll run into. And we'll cover over some of the more finite stuff later on. Like, it wouldn't be that. It wouldn't even take that much.
Mark and I have worked in technology that's required HIPAA regulation for years. And granted, our companies, our corporations have had incentive to make sure we don't break that because they get fined.
Yeah.
But you're absolutely right. It's not hard to set something up and go, hey, by the way, here's the standard.
Yeah, I mean, I'm excited for the DMCA music that they're coming with, but screwing everybody right before it comes doesn't seem like a really good step forward.
Yeah, I think there's sort of a twofold for this. So going back to what you were talking about, Brent, of like the in-game music, the in-game sounds, for example, that's kind of a double-edged sword, though. Of one, those game companies are kind of dicks for doing that in the first place. Of like, that's just in-game sound. That's part of your game. The other side of that, and I talked about this too with the NBA 2K19 thing with a live stream we tried doing with NBA 2K19, where if you stream through the PlayStation to Twitch, every sound in the game is removed except for the whistles and the game horn. You can't hear the ball bounce because apparently that's apparently a trademark sound of Spalding or Winston or whoever provides the ball. You can't get the crowd sound because that's sourced from somewhere else. And the idea is there's a ton of copyright issues. So the problem is that 2K has to, or Take-Two has to fight this because that they have to, like that's their contractual agreement
with whomever else is produced.
Or the original companies have to go out and make the DMCA takedown notices themselves. But realistically, that's licensed to 2K or to Take-Two. So if they decide that they're going to publish it in the game and somebody plays that game and plays it in a way where they make money off of technically licensed sounds, it's up to Take-Two to make that happen. So I kind of understand the other side of that, but by the same token, depending on what game you're playing, a lot of those sounds are made by the development company itself and owned by the publishing company too. So like they're kind of dicks if that's the case.
Because Spalding made the ball sound was made from.
That's like saying that was the
sound of my fart in a game because it's my fart. I made that fart. But you can't have it without paying me.
But you can copyright that sound, and if somebody decides they're going to use it, they have to pay you rights to use it.
So I think the key here, though, is that you're absolutely right. These companies have their own prerogative as well. That's why Twitch should be supporting their streamers and not blindsiding them, right?
Honestly, at this point, I don't know why Twitch doesn't say, screw it, we're done with this.
There's a way to implement a system where you can work with corporations to figure out limitations on how a stream works and then go from there. You distribute that information, and if people break those guidelines, you do it. The difference is that there's no competition. Why would you? You don't care. Right. Because when a DMCA comes in, you just say, F it, all right, you're done. Hey, the company said you can't have it. And move on
again,
with
even if they don't have a standing and they throw in a DMCA, they're just going to be like, okay.
Yeah,
they're not going to care if they're in the right or the wrong to begin with.
Well, and that's that was going to be the second point I was going to make. There was, and Brent, you pretty much hit the nail on the head. There was, Twitch doesn't care. We've already seen this before. Okay, Mixer came in and bought out the most popular streamer that they had, and Twitch and Amazon didn't bat an eye at it. They just kept going with, okay, We're just not going to respond to that. We're just going to keep going. We still own like 80% of the market share here in live streaming live streaming period, you know, so why would we even care that you guys are going to come in and take one of the bigger streamers that we have? We're still going to use the residual from his channel in the first place and continue to make money off the rest of the channels that are here. But the other side of this too is we saw this from the first DMCA issue of they just don't seem to care. The DMs, don't get me wrong, the DMCA music library is definitely a step in the right direction, but I don't still see any reason why they should monitor the content unless they have a bunch of content creators that start dropping like flies. Yeah, and they started to see something like this from the last DMCA takedown notice, where there was a blackout on the channel or on the site where a bunch of streamers got together and said, nobody's going to stream on this day. We're all scheduled to, and none of us are going to stream on this day. And that's what they had to do. And the problem is that the only way that they can do it, and we've talked about this before, is you got to speak with their wallet to some extent, or speak with your wallet even, to say, no, I'm not putting up with this. I'm going to go somewhere else. Me and everyone else are going to go somewhere else to do this if you're going to be a bunch of dicks about this. YouTube's got a great policy and an automation in place to make sure that this doesn't happen, and it has a massive library of music already available that isn't going to get me copyrighted. So,
the problem is like to have a mass migration like that would have to be extremely coordinated.
Right. And that's the issue, is that it's just not going to happen because Twitch already owns most of the market share. But like YouTube Gaming, for example, and YouTube already have the protections in place, for example, where Nintendo being the example again, is if you go to YouTube and play a Nintendo game and they have a bunch of copyrighted sounds on there, they just take a share of the profit right off the rip, and that's just an automatic thing. You still make money off of it. You don't get you don't have a DMCA takedown notice necessarily against you. YouTube will, or Google or Alphabet in general, will work with the other company to try to work out another deal so that DMCAs aren't a thing and content doesn't just get taken down. Instead, there's a mitigation that happens in place here, which Twitch I don't think has any kind of prerogative to do.
I mean,
personally.
Yeah. I mean, I guess it feels bad because it's kind of cold, and a lot of this stuff I think was preventable. Though that Spalding ball bouncing thing bothered. I just wanted to ball. So that's bounce it next to their face and be like, "What kind of ball is that?"
to clarify, like the reason that none of the sounds were in there is because most of them are licensed. I don't know if that's necessarily a licensed thing from Spalding or if that's just some other company that they get their sounds from. But No, I said that.
You said that?
Yeah, I said it came from Spalding or whoever, like Winston Spalding, whoever provides the ball.
Man, you can't be giving me half-ass information, okay? I have to know if it actually did or not.
No, but the reason
they're literally putting ads in the middle of their fucking game that cost $60. They're fuckers right now. Like, come on, how greedy you get? Are you kidding me?
Pretty bad. That's pretty bad.
You copy and paste half the game anyways. Not that I'm doubting those devs. They're hardworking, because creating a sports game in 9 months is fucking challenging. But the reason why
you create a game like WWE 20,
well, I mean, I look at the show, right? The show is made in 9 months every year. The show is consistent every year. Every year they make changes. That game increases. The fucking fandom increases.
Sells consoles.
Like, the show is an incredible. Like, what they do in that studio, which name escapes me right now, from Sony, is fucking incredible.
Oh God, it freaking left me too.
The rest of you are good, not great. That's all I'm gonna say. And it's not your fault. It's usually your leadership. But it's not Santa Monica. It's where my brain keeps going. But
I know, mine too. And it's not Santa Monica.
SIE San Diego and
San Diego.
No, it's all Sony Interactive.
Yep, Sony Interactive San Diego. But they do incredible work on those games. So no, I think the big thing here is that Twitch doesn't care. And I think it's truly, truly important for every streamer to not take this as a personal attack, but to fully, fundamentally understand this is a corporation. It's run by a parent company that very much doesn't care about its employees, let alone contract workers. You are essentially a contract worker because you sign an agreement with them in order to be on their platform. You need to understand they don't care. Okay. Right. So when you understand they don't care, their actions make sense. Is it fair? No. Do you deserve this? No. But they don't care. So you have to protect yourself in this regard. Right. Unfortunately, that's where it stands. you have to be the one who's knowledgeable. Make sure you study those games. Make sure you understand. It may mean not being day one on a stream with a game because you need to understand all the streaming guidelines because not everyone's clear. As much flack as I gave Sega and Atlas for the Persona games, they're very, very clear about their standards very early before the game launches.
Something maybe.
And again, I'm not mad at Twitch for being cold. Don't get me wrong. Like, I mean, it's a little off-putting.
That's
Yeah, the thing is, when it comes to business, like cut and dry works best in most cases.
Not when it comes to personal relations.
And those other people give you all the heartwarming feelings. They'll take care of the black and white print. But what I'm really mad is honestly how the DMCA is being used in such a petty way. And I'm like, do these people actually care? The people that made this music or whatever, like if it's showing up in a game that they were paid for to be in, like, are they really getting offended that this person's playing this game and this kid or adult is just like, hey, check this out, look at me play this game and give some commentary? Like, you really, really want to make their life an absolute living hell for no reason?
From my understanding, most of the time it's done through agents, right? You as an artist, you have an agent. That agent has people who are basically designed to go out there and make sure that your art is not being utilized in any way that you were not paid for.
Oh, right? We've heard horror stories about people just showing up into restaurants and going, you're going to get a bill.
Yeah, for artwork or anything. Like, I mean, it's this double-edged sword of like, you have to protect your work. I totally understand that. But also there's a level of you've made it. Sometimes it's okay to give to the little people in this regard. And it's that definition is individualized for each individual, right?
I could understand if it like raised them above everyone else for using your song or gave them some kind of advantage, but that's really not the case.
Yeah.
It's just petty.
Well, I mean, we talked about tattoos last week. We talked about music this week.
Yeah. That was pretty petty too.
Yeah.
If you haven't listened to that episode, you should, because it's
worth diving into. Sure.
So the only last recommendation I'll make, I guess, directed at streamers is maybe take the YouTube approach on things. Like we were talking about, you have to fend for yourself if you're on Twitch. Maybe take the YouTube approach. Reach out to the game development company or the publisher and say, hey, my name is such and such. I'm a big streamer. I have this kind of following. Anyway, 9 times out of 10, if you're a big enough streamer, they'll know who you are already. And say, hey, I'm trying to play your game. Or I'm getting ready to play your game that's going to launch on this date. I want to make sure, one, that there is not going to be any copyright issue here because we've run into that issue beforehand with previous companies and DMCA takedown notices. And 2, can I get a special license to this that I can present to Twitch to make sure that there is no issue for this? And how do you want to work that out?
Well, and that's a great point, because on Twitter, you can come across so many community managers for various games, and not games exclusively that have online communities. I'm talking about like, you can reach people at Atlas to talk about Persona and stuff, because they understand that a community is not just made for multiplayer games anymore. Like, we have niches for everything. So there are plenty of people you can go and talk to about this. And there are affiliates, like representatives at Twitch, you can discuss as well. Like, the biggest problem is this is all machine operated, in the sense of like, you get online, you set yourself up, it's automated, but it doesn't mean that you can't talk to someone. There are help rooms, there are places. Highly recommend it, because you don't want to feel like you're alone in the dark. You do want to be informed before you go ahead, because you don't want to end up like everyone here who got unfairly thrown in this DMCA takedown. Regardless of how the coin lies on fair or unfair, their stuff is gone now. Like, you can't go and grab those videos because Twitch has deleted them. So you don't want to end up in that point.
I guess my thing is, if the next DMCA again happens again, I mean, you could probably protect yourself by having a licensure agreement ahead of time with Sony Interactive or with Take-Two or Microsoft, whatever publisher you have that would be trying to issue a DMCA takedown notice ahead of time, to say, yes, I am allowed to use this content on my channel ahead of time, whether that be with a 5% cut or 20% cut, whatever it is that you give to that company for using their content.
Agreed. Any final thoughts before we move on, aside from Mark's?
No.
This beer is wonderful. That's my final thought.
It is delicious.
I do have a thing. I have to get another beer.
There we go. Please let us know what your thoughts are on the massive number 2 DMCA takedown of videos on Twitch in the comments, floating in the space where John used to be. He's gone now. You can tell he's not there.
Do you mean number 2 is in the shitstorm of what it is? Or
correct? Yes.
Number 2 storm.
But now it's time to move on to our final topic of the show, which is mine. And it actually is still revolving around Twitch, but it's Twitch and politics, our favorite topics on this show, right?
They shouldn't necessarily mix.
Well, so this is what I want to talk about. We are talking about Alexandria Ocasio. Cortez? Is that?
Yeah,
Ocasio?
That sounds right.
Ocasio.
Right. Streams on Twitch with Hassan Piker.
I've been calling her AOC for so long.
I know. And Pokemon for drawing over 430,000 viewers. So she actually did this nice little thing on last Monday where she got together with a bunch of different streamers, including the two I mentioned, of course, with Dr. Lupo, Disguised Toast, Moist Critical.
Yeah.
Myth, Mixed Tuna, and Jacksepticeye to stream Among Us, as well as just kind of answer questions in the Twitch stream. And I wanted to bring this up because, one, I do find this kind of fascinating that we're getting younger politicians involved in this aspect, right? And two, we have discussed on this show the way politicians are starting to use technology to interact, right? We know that Bernie has his own Twitch channel. The Army, Navy, and Air Force all have Twitch channels, which we discussed how they're kind of creepy on how they're trying to recruit people with their tactics. And then
you're
recently,
good at Call of Duty. I want you on my team.
Yeah, exactly. And refusing to talk about war crimes, which is always funny to me. And then the Joe Biden campaign creating their own Animal Crossing island for people to come and visit. So like, there's all these weird ways people are interacting. And I guess my big question is this something we want? Does this feel like it's pandering? Is it somewhere in the middle where we're trying to figure it out? Like, what are your thoughts?
I think that it's a little bit of both. I think when you're trying to reach a specific audience, it certainly helps, especially in the Bernie Sanders thing where he's like, I'm open-minded. I don't care. Or even AOC where she's like, she used to play League of Legends. So it's not like she's totally unfamiliar with the universe of gaming.
Yeah.
So it doesn't feel as unauthentic in a sense. But it's cool that we obviously, as a community, make up a big enough deal for someone like them to want to pay attention to.
Agreed.
It definitely makes you feel like almost like your own type of people. Like there are nerds and then there's gamers.
So when you go to your next census, it's going to be your ethnicity, and it's white, Caucasian, or was it Caucasian?
You live in your parents' basement, play video games.
Video games. Yeah, got it. Gamer. What about you, Mark? What are your initial thoughts here?
So I don't have any problem with this to some extent, with limitations.
With girls playing video games?
Politicians playing video games. Wow. Took that to a place that it really shouldn't have gone to. No, so when I first
girls playing video games, I feel like this is really important to point out right now.
So when I saw the tweet go out that AOC was going to stream, I was like, oh, well, that'd be kind of interesting. But my initial, I guess, skepticism was, is this going to be just sort of like a political stunt, or like, is she just going to get on to, well, actually in the tweet, she talked about specifically playing Among Us, but I was like, okay, well, is she going to talk about policy and, government work and this, that, the other is sort of an advertisement for herself while she's playing. Now, I didn't see anything. Maybe I missed it in the article, but I didn't see anything where she really talked about politics.
It fell in between, right? So basically, she acted like a streamer does, right? The chat asked questions, she answered them.
Oh yeah,
which is one of the things I really like. So I mean, she talked about how her League of Legends skills deteriorated, healthcare, betrayed by the first person to ever host her on a stream. She went into a couple of things where you got to learn about her. Maybe not necessarily about her politics, but she was as a person, her history.
But to be fair, that's part of being a streamer too, is you develop a personality with, your fans and the people who watch you, and really getting them to understand who you are as a person, not just for the games that you play or even who you might be known for outside of Twitch.
Well, to be fair, what other people don't realize is that a lot of those people aren't giving you their personality. They're giving you a character.
To be fair, yeah. I mean, like Dr. Disrespect, for example, is 110% a character and very much has been.
But still a douchebag in real life too.
Well, yeah, can we say that? But
one more time?
What?
Can we say to be fair one more time?
Now, to be fair, he's a douchebag in reality too.
You guys said it back to back like 4 times. I was like, okay.
Okay, didn't realize that.
To be fair, it's a very easy thing to say.
But I think this is a good platform for that. I guess this new expression of, like politicians to sort of spread into, and especially if we're having younger politicians come into the play here, first off, it's good advertising for them. But my caveat here is don't get into the politics there unless it's a big deal suddenly in your chat. If it's in your chat, sure, that's what your fans are there to ask questions about and want to talk about it. Cool. But if you're just sort of bringing it up like it's a campaign advertisement, or it's an advertisement for you to write to your other Congress people because they want some bill to pass in the House of Congress or the House or Senate, I don't really want to hear about that. That's not what I come onto Twitch for. I come onto Twitch because I want to watch either gaming content and I want to hear like some funny commentary from the people that I know or like to watch. But that's really about it.
It would be a good thing to see more of this, though, because a lot of people would like to interact on this level where, it's almost like how we like looking at debates. Okay, I got you on the spot. Here's a question. How are you going to answer this question? And for someone like AOC, who is very much involved with her constituents, that's actually how she raised a majority of her money, is not through large PACs, but through individuals, donations. And to see her interact in this kind of space honestly makes sense because it's her. I think it would be cool to see more of this as time goes on, because for more than just AOC, but for other constituents as well, even in a more serious fashion, and say the just talking portion of the Twitch verse, where they're like, hey, here's an open forum, ask questions, I'll answer the ones I want to answer, and if you guys keep demanding the same question, I'll force myself to answer it.
I mean, if you categorize yourself into the just talking section, cool. Like that's obviously what you're there to do, is just Q&A style, or having a conversation, or you want to rant about something, you want to get it off your chest, whatever it is. Like that's totally fine. That's not my personal preference on what I'm going to watch on Twitch, but it might be somebody else's too. But I think Twitch is also a good forum for that, because it makes it very town hall style.
Yeah.
With a lot of people who probably wouldn't have actually gone to a town hall, for example, to be able to communicate with that person.
Or even watch the debate, right?
Right.
Yeah, like there's plenty of people who care less about watching debate, but having that level of interaction where you can actually see. And honestly, if you're not good at improvising, this is not a good space for you, right? Like you're gonna have to be honest. Like it's gonna be.
But that's also why I like it, is because it puts you on the spot, and it's like you can't read off a script. You're not going to be looking at this is what you feel. This is what we're talking about. We're having a real conversation. And that's why I like about it.
Yep.
And if you're fake, it's gonna come out, and everybody's gonna see it
quickly.
And I feel like if we had more of this, we'd have a lot less shitty politicians like Lindsey Graham. Yeah, that's right. I'm just gonna shit all over everybody.
No, you shouldn't. He's a piece of shit.
Yeah, he's Mark, if you liked him because he was Trump's friend, just know that he was calling him a bitch in the beginning, and now he's licking his balls.
That's the third one for John. No, well, I was thinking
to be fair.
Yeah, to be fair, I was thinking about your point, Mark, where you're like, you don't want this to become an advertisement. I don't think it's possible on Twitch until you gain that garner that following, right? Like, because most people are absolutely in the same category. They're not going to come on here to watch Bernie just talk about his platform. They may want to ask him specific questions. In AOC's situation, it's less about even really want to talk to her about a platform and just get to know her. Who is she as a person? And gaming isn't the only spectrum that Twitch covers. It's their majority. Right. But like, there's so many politicians I think could 100% learn from this. Of like, I love to cook. What about recording me in an area where I have a laptop where I can read questions, answer them, and I can cook a meal, show you how to cook that. Like, getting to understand your constituents in a way that
Martha Stewart.
Well, I mean, literally though, like there's just, we've created this world, and by we, I mean humanity, in which we've like dialed it up to 11 where everyone's always busy. It's difficult to get to go to do things. Like wanting to be a part of and involved in it is something we discuss a lot, the three of us, of like what we can do with our community, what we can do with our future in this country. It bothers us a lot of like what's been happening. How can we affect change? You know, well, what's all that stand for? Why not have an easy spectrum where it's not going to vote, it's not the same level of that, but at least understanding these people who are put into power.
Right. Well, and that's a good point. I like, first off, Brent, I completely forgot about cooking streams. That's actually a pretty popular thing you'll find too. But like, I guess a hobby stream, for example, of your local house rep or your local or your Senate, one of your Senate reps for your state, you know, does a live stream of them, you know, like whittling for an entire evening or something like that, because that's what they do is woodwork, you know, like they may work on something small. I think that would be really cool to get that extra perspective on who they are, as opposed to just knowing them as a politician. Now, to some extent, you know, people have different opinions on that of, you know, do you vote just based on their policy? Do you vote who they are as a person? And then that's a personal decision, you know, for a lot of people too. But I think that does open up the other avenue of actually knowing who they are, as opposed to reading their website written by somebody else or reading a Wikipedia article of who they are and what they've done before. You actually get to see them and have the opportunity to interact to some extent with them.
Or a transcribed statement that 3 aides have looked at and gone through to make sure it's the most politically correct way.
Or tweet that's managed by their social media manager and, you know, 3 people underneath them to verify a tweet before it goes out.
You know very well Mitch McConnell doesn't know how to tweet. F that guy.
Right. That's why he pays somebody else to do it.
100%. But no, you're absolutely right. Like there's the canoe guy in New Zealand who's extremely hard. If you've never seen this Twitch stream, it's this gentleman who makes canoes in New Zealand, and he is absolutely amazing. But the Prime Minister of New Zealand came on a show, like, and
it was that was the one I was getting ready to pull up there.
Yeah, like it's just so good to see humanity. I think that's something that has been hitting a lot of, and honestly, I think it will prove who's willing to showcase their truer self, not their true self, because you're still, like John, like you said, you're put on a character, you know, you're still performing, but again, it's a different set of skills.
Yeah,
it's not the same, and it's going to be easier to see that bullshit. So being able to see them on a stage where they are uncomfortable, where they're not in control, I think really does showcase the individual themselves, and that's important when you're talking about, you know, our country, our leadership, from the local level to the big offices.
Okay. All I'm saying is I now want to play a whole thing of Among Us with AOC? Trump and the entire cabinet.
Oh God, no! Trump would be awful.
No. Just the names and see who makes it out on top.
Oh my gosh!
But I think it would be cool to actually she'd be like, "Oh yeah, we're voting on this Supreme Court judge today. I'd rather play Among Us, thanks." Start screaming in the middle of it, I would die.
I would definitely love to play Among Us with Mitch McConnell and Lindsey Graham and see how they do with you know, trying to lie their way through things, but you know, whatever.
God, I can't lie. Did you happen to find that streamer? I was hoping you were looking for him.
Brox, Broxh. Yeah, he is a new streamer or whatever, and the prime the Prime Minister of New Zealand or whatever came on.
If you ping me the link, I could put it in our document.
That's fair. Jacinda Ardern.
There you go. Wow. So, any final thoughts on this before we end the show?
No, I think it's cool, and I hope to see more of it.
Yeah, I agree with that entirely.
Just saying.
How about you, Dispatcher?
No, I think this is good. I'd like to see more of it.
Yeah, cool. Please let us know what you think about AOC streaming Among Us in the comments floating directly above me like the devil horns because it's Halloween. All Hallows Eve. But now I think it's time for last call. Last call! I think there's nothing funnier than Mark like trying to open his beer and knocking his mic. You don't have to go home, but you can't stay here. Of course, we are still in our quarantine bunkers, enjoying our lives. You know, we're actually talking about getting together soon, seeing each other together for the first time, I think, since February.
I mean,
like in one spot.
Well, all three of us being together, since February before lockdown in March, yeah.
There you go. But please,
I can't pry Brett out of his house.
Of course not. Look at this place. Look how cool it is. I got comics back there. I got video games over there.
He's got a big spoopy orange light now. So
I got a spooky orange light. Ooh, spoopy. But please, please be safe. Make sure you wash your hands, sanitize, and also because we talked about politics, I think it's very important. Please go out and vote if you are eligible. If you are 18, born here in the United States, and you have your voter ID cards, depending on the state you're in. I don't care who you vote for. We can disagree on politics. I may really disagree with you on politics, but go use your voice. There's no better time to do so other than now. If you don't know
another important PSA, if you have asked for an absentee ballot and you have not mailed it off already, please drop it off at a mail ballot. Drop it off in person at a ballot box or at an early voting station. Do not send it in the mail.
Correct.
It is no longer guaranteed at this point in time that you were listening that it will make it in time.
Very important. Very important. Also, don't do it in Boston because apparently a dude lit one on fire.
That's good. That's not good. I'm joking, of course. That's not good.
Yeah, that's the thing. Anyways,
asshole.
Correct. Of course, you can join us on our Discord. We actually had a nice, spirited conversation about the Game Awards, Game of the Year, and how all of that politics works within the gaming sphere. Excuse me, I'm hiccuping. And whether or not your vote matters. Should it be a straight democracy? Should Jeff Keighley come down from his throne? Or does it all work out just fine and we all just need to calm down? You can decide that for yourself and discuss it in our Discord general chat, along with other things. We use this to play Among Us. John, you've played a couple of rounds recently. Of course, you can join us in for pretty much any game you want. I can almost guarantee, as long as it's not like really terrible, and most of us like it, you'll find someone to play with. For some cool ass shit, because there's no weekly reading or deals this week. Japanese esports event awards crabs as the final point.
That's amazing.
Like the final prize was actual crabs. So I wanted to go into this because they were playing the game Fight Crab, which is a game where you play as crabs fighting each other. So you have to like pick up knives and stuff. It looks really funny. They were giving away crabs as the prize, but they're giving away red snow crabs priced at 3,000 yen, which equates to $28.60, right? They're giving away 100 of these if you're the winner. So it's not like you're getting a little bit of money, like you're getting some crabs.
Wow, okay.
What do you have? How are they going to
it's considered a local delicacy. It's one of the reasons why they're giving it away.
I want to eat it and everything. It's just, how are you going to transport it? And what, like,
I'm fairly certain you don't get 100 crabs at once unless you really want it. I am certain that it is 100 crabs over the next whatever.
I hope they just didn't drop them on the floor and go, pick them up. It's all yours.
I don't know why that just made me think of there's a video out on YouTube of somebody who tried to ship crabs in a box, and that box ruptures as it comes down onto the conveyor belt in the baggage claim of an airport. And there are just crabs walking across the airport randomly and around the baggage carousel and everything. It's funny.
That's amazing. That's amazing. Before we move on to our question of the week, I actually have a different question for you guys. Do you realize that we have documentation on the internet that if we ever have children, they'll be able to watch like hours of content about our shenanigans?
Fine. They'd actually have to actively go out and find that, which I don't think they will.
I wasn't thinking about that, but now I am. Thank you.
And finally, our question of the week, which you can answer in the comments above the video. What is your ideal vacation activity? So I asked this question because I feel like I'm an odd vacation taker. And John, you've been on mini vacation with me. I think you have an idea of what I prefer, but I rarely want to go on vacation to straight relax. Like I don't usually go. Like, the idea of like going to a resort or on a cruise is almost repulsive to me, because if I take the time out to travel somewhere,
repulsive.
I think so. Like I think that's the reaction I have.
So every time I invited you to come with me to the beach.
No.
At the resort, you were like, I find that repulsive.
No, I want. I guess I need to clarify a little bit, because I'm thinking of like.
Ooh, this motherfucker.
I'm thinking of like for full transparency, John and I are going to the beach for a week next week. Like we're going to relax, but I also know that when I go there, I'm not going to stay in the house the entire time. I'm going to go on the beach. I'm going to walk. I'm going to explore. because that's one of my favorite activities when I go on vacation.
For as much as we like to eat, if we didn't, we'd be 700 pounds.
That's true. But, you know, like going to Ireland, going to Wales, going to the UK, my favorite thing was walking around and finding things. Like whether I found them on a virtual map, whether I just found them while walking, like I love that exploration aspect. It's one of the reasons why open world games are so appealing to me, is because I get to go and explore a space and get to know it kind of intimately. And so I was just kind of curious as to what you two find draws you when you're able to kind of travel and get away.
See, the problem is I'm very specific in the way. I guess the best way to put it is who I'm with makes my vacation a specific way.
Okay.
So when I'm with you guys, it's normally like we're doing stuff, whether it's going out on the beach and hitting golf balls or playing video games or, you know, going around finding good eats, going, you know, just finding an adventure somewhere. Or I'm with my parents where everybody's like, let's play cards and eat junk food for a week. Is that a beach? Well, here's the table. Here's some cards. Let's eat some junk food. And then when we're done, you can go boil yourself in the spa. And then there's also, you know, I've recently I had to use a vacation because everything got screwed up with the pandemic, and I ended up having to take it before the fiscal year end of the company. So I ended up just staying home for a week.
Yeah.
And to be honest, like I'm literally all I wanted to do was play video game. All I could think about was like, I'm going to catch up on this and this and this. And what did I do? None of that. Yep. All I did was clean, figure out something I could fix, and go do stuff and prep myself up to like get ahead of the game for the next like few months, you know? I don't know, something's wrong with me sometimes. But no, like the whole relaxation part of vacations is more of a trick.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
what it really is you should be looking forward to, I'm going to force myself into labor for the next week.
I think that's why I find this question so fascinating, because I think about like in September, Bree and I took a vacation, and I don't mean it like we didn't go somewhere, but we did. But we didn't do like we went to the mountains between North Carolina and Virginia. We stayed in a little cabin, was on a creek, and that was relaxing. Don't get me wrong. I like sitting out there with a cup of coffee, letting the rain fall in the house and watching the creek. Incredible. But in our free time, we hiked part of the Appalachian Trail. We went up to the top of Mount Rogers to go find wild ponies. Like that was what we chose to do with that limited time that we had there. And I find that to be a driving force often when I'm on vacation. So
okay. Most of my vacations are just straight relaxation. There's a few things of like going with a purpose to do certain things. So actually, you're talking about cruises. Cruises are kind of an interesting like middle ground mix for me.
Yeah.
Like one, you're talking about exploration. I mean, exploring the ship may not be the exploration you're looking for necessarily, but there are always things to do on the ship. There's games to play. There's restaurants. There's, you know, shopping. If you really want to do that, I don't recommend it necessarily because of the expense. But I mean, there's the pools. There's the hot tubs. There's different decks you can go to see different things. You know, but realistically,
is this in international waters, by the way? Do they allow hookers?
Of course.
Prostitutes.
Yeah.
Because that would change my view of ships tremendously.
You just have to go. You just have to go a certain number of miles off the U.S. coast, and suddenly you're in international waters, and it's not illegal out there.
There you go.
No, but part of the exploration, or part of the idea of cruises anyway, being the middle ground is, you know, when you're on the ship, it's just relaxation, do whatever you want. But whenever you get to your destination, that's where you have the excursions to go out and do an exploration thing. And if you want to explore the city on your own or the town on your own, you just do it, you know? Like you have your time of when you come to dock and whenever the ship's supposed to leave dock. And as long as you're back before that, whatever, go do what you want, you know? And I think there's a good middle ground there of go explore and do your thing whenever you show up at port, but then whenever you're not at port, you can relax, you can sit in the room, you can order service, you can go to shows, you can go gamble at the casino, you can go to the bar, whatever, you know.
See, I can't drag Brett to Vegas. I tried so hard.
Yeah, but cruises are kind of nice for me because I like both sides. I like the ability to do things with a purpose, of like taking a trip with a purpose to go do something. You know, like for example, maybe conventions are a little bit different, but like to me that is a vacation of I'm going to go to PAX up in Boston. I'm going to go to DreamHack in Atlanta. I'm going to go to a Call of Duty event in Las Vegas. You know, and I've done those things, and I'm going to those places with a purpose of doing something. But probably my favorite vacations are still the ones that my dad's side of the family does almost every year, where we get a house in the Outer Banks, a really big one to support, you know, like 15 people, with a pool, a hot tub, and beach access. And you do what you want for that entire week to 2 week span.
Yeah.
You know, if you're going to go do something, announce it to the house or whatever to give everyone else the opportunity to go with you. But other than that, do what you want. Like the last time I remember going, we rented a big house. We hung out mostly by the hot tub or the pool. We were drinking most of the time during the day. There's a wonderful video that my aunt has of me sunburnt doing the wobble, poolside faced. Like do whatever you want. Like, so for honestly, part of it, because it's a hobby of mine, is I do software development. I work on a personal project, that kind of thing. Yeah. But I'll set up my laptop and work in the early morning to the evening, watching the sun rise or you know, over the water or whatever, or you know, as it's setting behind us or something like that, as I'm watching over like the cool colors, you know, anyway, over the water, and I enjoy doing that. But it's sort of a mix, you know, and I guess. John, I agree with you. It definitely depends on who you're with. But it could go either way with me, I guess.
Okay.
Yeah, it really just depends on the mood you're in. You know, Are you really exhausted, or are you like pent up and you're like, adventure time? I want to do something fun because work has not been that.
Well, so actually, the last Outer Banks vacation, actually, I got tired of it at one point where I was doing my like working on a project of mine for a little while anyway, while I was sitting out in the deck, and I decided I really didn't want to stick around the house that day. So I'm going to show you guys this picture, and I'll put it up on screen.
Oh, yeah. I
trucked the motorcycle out with me to the last house we went to, and I took it out up and down the coast anyway, and I brought it all the way down to Hatteras. I rode like 3 or 4 hours down to Hatteras, and then rode all the way back. It was an awesome time. I went up and explored into the lighthouse, got to see the parks out there and everything. It was really cool. But like that was that was the kind of thing of like, okay, well, I'm bored now, so I want to go do some exploration. So here's my exploration, you know.
Yeah, I feel like Mikey's gonna whack me with his fishing pole at like 6 a.m. Let's go fishing, because Brian's not here, and he's gonna be like, "You're my buddy this week."
That's not a euphemism, or is it?
I don't know. With that hand motion, it looked like a euphemism.
Please let us know what your favorite vacation activity is in the comments, floating directly between us. Like, I don't know if you noticed, we're all together in this video. Marcus edited just a small section. If you click on it, barely highlight the video, you'll be able to find it. But until next time, cheers.
Cheers.
Mark, I love Mark's sneaky, where he's like, I'm just going to put this over here because I'm going to do something silly in this video.